The Bandicoots are back in town, and it's been such a long time we've had a proper Crash Bandicoot game. And I mean proper, not the stuff that was Crash of the Titans or Mind Over Mutant or whichever one was first before the other one, but I don't care. I actually didn't play those. I'm talking about a true to form Crash Bandicoot game. This was developed by Toys for Bob, probably one of my favorite Activision developers, as they've made the Skylander games and have a record of making some pretty good platform games, and they did not disappoint with this one. Crash 4 is graphically impressive, the animations are great and cartoony, I love the art style, it's just a gorgeous looking game. And the music is great, very reminiscent of the classic Crash games. Like those are songs you'd hear from the original PlayStation ones. The controls are incredibly responsive and even sensitive. Coco and Crash play exactly the same, and I'm slightly disappointed that Coco didn't play differently. You unlock her after the second level, and when I did, I just stuck with her because there was no difference between her and Crash. They do retain all their moves from Crash 3, and some of their power-ups from Crash 3 have been incorporated into their moveset like the double jump, making it feel like a direct successor to it. And like those games, it's a one-hit and you're dead, unless you have an Aku Aku mask, and that functions exactly like the PlayStation Trilogy. However, they did add in a gimmick. The gimmick being that there's new masks that grant you powers to manipulate the terrain. Blue is a dimensional shift. Probably the most annoying and most used. A lot of platforming centers around this. You'll be doing a lot of switching things in and out of reality, and this caused a lot of accidental deaths. Because if you stand in a platform and shift into reality, it's an automatic death. Makes sense, but it sucks. The purple is a dark matter spin. It allows you to reflect green energy for some reason, only green, and I don't know why anything else, but also allows for long jumps and hovering, and is probably my favorite mask for platforming. Gold slows down time for about 5 seconds. It's not as annoying as a dimensional shift, but each millisecond is crucial for the platforming it's needed for, as once the time is up, everything resumes to normal speed. And finally, green is the gravity shift, which I feel is wonky. Sometimes the physics for the gravity shift are normal, but sometimes the acceleration is too fast, resulting in deaths, because the momentum didn't cancel out in time. In addition to Crash and Coco, there's 3 more playable characters, Tawana, Dingodile, and Cortex, but you can't play them in any stage. They have their own stages that you'll play them in. Tawana has a grappling hook for long-range attacks and traversing spaces. Aiming with it isn't easy for attacks, so it's best to just use it for its intended purpose of swinging around. Which is kinda disappointing, as one of the developers, or maybe some PR rep, said that if you're on the ground with her, you're playing her wrong. Which is a straight-out lie, because you cannot grapple on everything, only on certain context-sensitive places, or wall jump on certain context-sensitive areas. Which sucks because she's just as restricted as the other characters. Dingodile has a vacuum gun for sucking up things, which will also grab and fire TNT boxes and is used for hovering. Hovering requires a different mindset though. As Crash, Coco, and Tawana have a double jump by pressing X twice, Dingodile you press and hold X for him to hover, and at the end it gives you a little added height as well. Shooting and sucking up items is kinda difficult to gauge where you're aiming, much like Tawana's grappling hook, but it's an area effect cone that's in front of him, so you don't need to be as accurate. Cortex has an air dash instead of a double jump, and he has a gun that turns enemies into platforms. The first shot will turn an enemy into a hard platform, a second shot will turn them into a bouncy platform, allowing you to jump high into the air, and a third shot will turn them back to normal. And because Cortex does not have a double jump, you have to keep that in mind, otherwise you will die, and that is kind of hard when you go from a couple of characters that have double jumps to one that doesn't. The evil doctors that work with Cortex in the past return as bosses. Engine was annoying because of the dimensional shift needed to get close to him. Embryo was worse, mainly because of the camera angle hiding the edge of the platform closest to you, and messing with depth perception when it came to the edge that's furthest from you. It's not that he was inherently hard, it's just that the camera made it difficult. The first Cortex boss was alright. The Entropy boss was fun when traversing platforms to get to them, but actually fighting them was disappointing, and the final Cortex boss was surprisingly easy. And for the second to last stage, I died 165 times. Almost all of them were at the very end of the stage, and I swear they got some level designer from From Software, because that final section requires perfect timing of using the mask powers and perfect jumps. I would say that maybe 50% of those deaths weren't on me though. Sometimes the game didn't respond to the R2 trigger to activate or deactivate the mask. Sometimes the game didn't register that I was near the gravity mask, so I would always have to make sure that I touched it. This is the only section of the game that requires you to touch the masks. All throughout the game, you just had to be near the mask for you to get it, as it was required for that section, as you wouldn't get past that without a mask. This is the only part of the game where the masks have collision detection instead of a trigger. What I mean by this is that all throughout the game, when a mask appeared, even if you tried to avoid it, you still got it. You triggered that mask power upon entering that section. However, for this area, you have to be within the mask's area of influence, the time mask having the largest collision detection, as you have to jump up in the air to get it, but yet you don't actually touch it. The dark matter mask is something that you'll always touch, but the gravity mask has the smallest area of effect, meaning that you need to actually touch it to get it. Like the previous Crash Bandocoot games, there's gems as a collectible, and there are loads of them. You get 3 for getting a certain percentage of Wumpa Fruits, a 4th for breaking all the boxes, a 5th for beating the level if you didn't die more than 3 times, and a 6th hidden gem somewhere in the stage. Then there's the inverted stages, where you play a flipped version of the stage, and it seems to play more like sonar or echolocation, and there's another 6 gems to collect. Collect a total of 6 gems and you get to unlock a new skin for Crash or Coco, although later stages will increase the amount of gems needed for the skins. And color gems also make a return, but I haven't found any of them. There's about 42 levels, plus 42 inverted levels, and 21 flashback tapes that show Crash before he escaped Cortex's castle in the first game. To get a flashback tape, you must perform a perfect run until you reach the tape's location. Once you have the tape, you'll be fine to die as much as you'd like. Once you have the tape, you'll be able to die as much as you like. If everything is counted as its own level, there's 105 levels for you to go through, which I think is a reference to the completion total in the PlayStation 1 games being able to go over 100%. And Crash 4 isn't like the original trilogy when it comes to platform. It does require something of different mindset, more akin to a Sonic game, requiring constant movement. In the original trilogy, it allowed you to stop and plan your jumps. But with Crash 4, you can do that, but more often than not, it'll get you killed. There are moments that allow you to stop and take a breath, but once you're past that, you have to keep moving. They give you a little circle under the character so you can know where you're going to land, but that can be shut off. And there's infinite lives. The game will count how many times you've died instead, but this too can be shut off to return to the classic life system. There is a hub world and it feels rather bad in how it's designed. It's not as simple as the warp rooms from Crash 2 or 3, it's a more complicated version of the original Crash Bandocoot map. And I really do hope that there's going to be another game coming. I want another Crash game. We need more of these cartoony mascot platformers. Sonic and Mario just aren't enough. We need Crash. We need good Crash games like this one. Maybe without the mask powers, but still, these are needed. I know there's a new Ratchet & Clank game coming for the PS5, but let's get Jak and Daxter back, or a Sly Cooper 5, because Sly 4 ended on a cliffhanger. Crash 4 lives up to its name, because it's about time we got another game like this.